Welcome to another edition of Your Impact Attack. That's right, it's Your Impact Attack. For a second there, I thought it was one of the shows with Jimmy T, but it's not. It's the Impact Attack. And the VBC is here. And who is the VBC? I am the V in the VBC, the vet, JB Williams. With me, as always, tag team partner Brandon as I reach into tag, and boom, the crowd goes wild. Cleaning house. Brandon, what's going on?
Not much, pal. I had to change the intro up because apparently we were getting flagged with the Wrestle House too because Anthem Entertainment was getting the videos pulled, so we kind of had to stop doing that.
Well, yeah, we had a good 1 week run there. Yeah, they love their Wrestle House. They love their Wrestle House. You know who else loves their Wrestle House? The C, which is the chat. Because right now I'm only seeing Liz and Labrat, but that's a 2-person power trip right there. If ever there was one. So we are glad. But I know we'll get some more. I know if Canada Spaceman wakes up from being passed out, he'll be here. There'll be other people joining as we go. They subscribe and they click that notification bell. So sometimes it takes them a while to stumble to their device of choice. But we'll be here, even though we may not be here for long. Because my goodness, what do we even talk about? We have one episode of Impact Impact to talk about, and almost very little news that I could see, and we do have a Chris Winland question, but other than that, we could get you in and out of here and tucked into bed in a timely fashion. So I'll start with Brandon. What do you how was your weekend? What have you seen that's worthy of discussion in the past 7 days since we've done this?
I think the biggest thing coming out of the weekend is it looks like Brian Danielson's career as a full-time wrestler does appear to finally be over.
I see. Yes, at Wrestle Dream, he was, another attempted murder. Not just his career, but whatever. They need to get rid of him, I guess.
Yeah, and we ran the same angle twice on the same show with best friend stabbing the friend in the back.
Mm-hmm.
First, we had Kyle Fletcher do it to Will Ospreay, and then Wheeler Yuta did to Brian Danielson.
Mm-hmm. It's very nice. So, there's a million things that people could say about this, and I'm sure they'll say them all. But my question is something that just sort of popped into my mind, like right now, like right this second as we're talking about it. So if you have a guy, Brian Danielson, who's, on a retirement tour and says, this is the angle. The angle is when I lose, I will retire. That is what he said. That's the angle. Whether that's a shoot or not, that's the premise that we're all working under. Now, part of this angle is he's got this opponent that he used to be in a group with, and they have sort of turned on him, and they've already made an attempt on his life, if you want to call it that, or even if they just wanted to choke him a little, whatever. It was the insinuation by Jon Moxley and company is that he's not fit to do this anymore, and they are like, they have to. Jon Moxley keeps saying, I didn't want to do this, but we have to. We have to change. Things have to change. We're taking over. These kinds of things. Like, so his angle is like, I need this. I need to be the AEW champion to do whatever this mysterious thing is that we're gonna do. And Danielson is like a lame horse that has to get put down, right? So here's the thing. Do you need, if you've already done this, and like you pointed out, they've already did this angle early in the show with a surprise turn and everything like that, right? On Kyle Fletcher and Ospreay and stuff. So the minute you beat Brian Danielson in the match, he's got to retire anyway. So what good is it to redo the angle that you already did, where you tried to kill him with a plastic bag and beat him down and break his neck and all this other stuff? It sounds like Mark Henry's theme song. Why do you have to? Why do you have to continue the angle? It's just, I mean, it seems
You
like a
beat
hat
him.
on a hat.
Yeah, you beat him. He got the belt. Mission accomplished. He's gone.
Right. Right. And he keeps saying, I didn't want to do this. I didn't want to do this. I don't want to do this. Well, I'm doing it. You know, it just, and I get it, but I
The
just don't see the layers, the just the layers of redundancy necessary for this. They're not thinking about it.
if they explain this by saying like, okay, we needed to make sure that Wheeler Yuta was on board, so he had to do this act to prove he was on board with us. Okay, I can understand that, but of course, I doubt they're gonna follow up with anything like that.
No. Or it could have just been whatever it was to cost him the title, you know, you to cost him the title and then go that way. And then everybody else will have to deal with it. Like it would have been great if, you know, just to do something different for a change. Because even besides everything else, how many times do we have to do these things where these long, elaborate, where they're trying to get people like they're trying to upset people, like it happens all the time. They're always trying to do these things to make you like emotionally invested that are so unrealistic that it only serves to take people out of it. I think more than anything, they just think it's in bad taste. You see more people say things that are in bad taste than just feel like, wow, this is great storytelling. At best, it's just cliched and tired storytelling. At worst, it insults people's intelligence and just has them questioning. You know, you don't want to bring up the phoniness of pro wrestling in people's minds to the forefront anytime you run an angle. And it's to the point where people don't believe, you know, like the business is so exposed. You have people that don't believe stuff when it's real, and they'll believe anything when it's not real. Like if AJ Styles hurts his foot or something, people are like, oh, it's a work. You know what I mean? Like they'll say, oh yeah, it's a work with AJ Styles, and you know that's just a recent example. And we're not even gonna know if it is or not. Like even if it wasn't a work, they're not, or if it was a work, they're not gonna admit it. And if it was a work, you know, they're not gonna. So either way, we don't really know the truth. But now you got people like, you got reporting like, oh, it's actually legit. It's a legit injury. It's a legit injury. But people still don't believe it. Meanwhile, you know, on the other hand, people will take stuff that is a work and try to talk about it like it's real. Like I had some like I literally saw, um, you know, when when Triple H was they're usually like, oh, you think Triple H isn't think Triple H isn't a racist? Well, look at this, and then they show a promo from the Booker T angle. Like, you know, that was an angle, right? Like, are you what are you're trying to use this as evidence? This is, you're gonna have to come up with something besides that. You know, like people won't. They're so backwards on the kayfabe aspect of wrestling that now they're always getting it wrong. I used to joke around with my buddy Sergio, because he would ask me like, hey, do you think this is a work? You know, and I'm like, well, whatever you think it is, it's the opposite probably, because you always fall for it. If you think it's real, it's probably a work. If you think it's a work, it's probably real. So I would just go, I would just ask Sergio. Sergio's in the chat sometimes. So if he's ever here, you want to answer to whether something's real or not, just ask him and then go the other way. But, yeah, I don't know. Well, Danielson, well, time to retire. Danielson, thanks for the memories. Even though I'm sure you'll be back to get your revenge. And then what? A wrestling match? Like that'll be. that'll be the equivalency of what they did to you. You'll have a match with them and beat them up. Well, you had your chance when you had the match in the ring, and you ended up crippled. So what would be different any other time? That's why I don't get, the whole locker room could have emptied out to help you, and they didn't. That's another aspect of it. Like they took way too long because, again, you know, oh well, this is supposed to be emotional and disturbing and all this stuff, and then all I'm thinking is, well, where's everybody? And the camera even literally, remember when the camera pointed to the entrance just to show nobody coming out? Like, you should have all been ready to come out. Like, the whole locker room should have been a curtain sellout with the whole locker room watching on the monitor. This could be Danielson's last match, and they already know the attitude of whatever this Moxley group. It doesn't even have a name yet.
And you can even cut to shots in the middle of the match of the locker room watching in Gorilla.
Yep. You could have, yeah. You actually could have ended this show with Danielson on people's shoulders if you did it a certain way. Like, they tried to do something, everybody came out, and then you leave Danielson where he's like, the people, like all the wrestlers come out and they're like congratulating him on his career or whatever, like, because they know it's over. And then the sad moment isn't because they took a chair and stepped on it, like the Pillmanized thing. You could have had everybody like praising him, but it's also sad because Danielson's not in a praiseworthy mood because now he's like, this shit is over. So you could have that sort of contrast, but they couldn't possibly pull that off, especially not with the commentary, especially not with those people out there where JR is like calling this like it's a podcast. Tony Schiavone's just repeating whatever the other Tony's telling him to. Excalibur he's crying out there because he's sad, but he wasn't sad enough to get in the ring and try to stop anything from happening. And neither was Nigel McGuinness, who's just going to sit there as an active wrestler as of like a week ago and just watch everybody murder his greatest opponent. Like, nothing makes sense about anything they're doing. So they certainly couldn't have tried to pull off the bittersweet Danielson's career is over moment. Maybe they knew that, and that's why they had to go with this. Who knows? But anyway, I don't have anything else to say about it. You got anything else to button that up with?
Nah, not really. I mean, it was what it was. We kind of said our piece about it.
All right. Well, any other big news?
I could kind of, not really news, but more speculation. I could kind of see like this would lead to Shane McMahon coming in.
Oh, okay.
So I think that's
kind of. So he's still not working with his dad to buy AEW.
Again, who knows what kind of phone calls and conversations are going on behind the scenes? Like, again, it's all speculation, it's all conjecture, it's content, it's discussion. It's really all it is.
Okay. Well, I guess we could go to the Chris Winland question. Nothing else. Chris Winland writes, "Hey guys." Damn, he was that close. He could have just said hi guys, and then we would have had a good, yeah. It says, tonight, would you share any thoughts or insights on blood in matches or in backstage segments? Have you ever received or have given color during your time in the ring? Just a bloody topic suggestion for a bloody month in pro wrestling. Yeah. Pro wrestling has a period. So I think
pro wrestling's time of the month, pal.
Yeah. Let's get this out of the way. No, I never got colored. No, I was never in with anybody that got color. As a matter of fact, the Kentucky State Athletic Commission forbids it. So in the state of Kentucky, you don't do that. And that's really the only place I wrestled and was licensed to wrestle during that period of my active career. So it was never going to happen anyways. But even if it had wanted to happen, it couldn't have for those reasons. So when people get hard weighed in matches, they got to take it home right away. Like that kind of stuff. So That's for me to answer just that part of the question and get that out of the way before we discuss the philosophy. What about you, Brandon? Did you ever, make a blade? You ever sit there with the scissors and cut up
Nah, I
your
never
razor?
bladed, but definitely got hard way like once or twice.
Okay, that's cool. I never even got busted nose. I got lucky. I was very lucky.
That was actually my biggest hard way was like I took a fisherman suplex, and I don't know how it happened, but somehow my knee landed right in my nose, smashed it all up.
Damn, me really had you hooked in that fisherman.
Yeah, I took it. Yeah, as soon as we got to the back, I took the mask off. Like the inside was completely covered in blood.
Oh God. Well, that was the finish, right? The fisherman's plex.
No, I think we did a little bit more after that.
Oh my God.
I mean, that adrenaline's running, and again, if you have a mask on, you don't really see it, or you're not really feeling it too much. Plus, it's getting like because the mask is absorbing it on the inside as it flows.
Ah, yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Like
Um,
I legit had no idea I was bleeding until I got to the back.
that's interesting. That's interesting. Yeah, well, I think that's one of those reasons why, like, you rarely would see a mass wrestler get color. I mean, of course it has happened, but it's usually not something they purposely do because, you know, can't really see. So you would need to have the type of mask that blood would show through if you were to do that. But then like how are you going to blade yourself because you got a mask on? So like you it just wouldn't work, right? So that's, you just don't see it. Um Unless it is a hard way usually. So that's yeah. Was there another time that you got hard weighed?
I mean, I remember that it happened at least one or two more times. Beyond that one, I just can't remember the specific instance.
Okay. And there was, and now that you didn't have the same situation with the athletic commission, right? Like it didn't matter.
No, like where that happened, like they didn't even have an athletic commission that really paid attention.
Right. So were you ever licensed, or did you ever have to get licensed?
Yes, in my main home state of Missouri, yes.
So Missouri did, and did they
Right.
have rules or anything about that?
I'm pretty sure there were like no blading, but if like it's one of those things where it's like hard way, like I kind of understood it happens. That was kind of the sketch when like you try to have to avoid blood as much as possible.
Okay. Well, that might have been it then, because it's not that. Yeah, I don't know. Well, so just from that aspect, but now the thoughts on the blood in the matches and the segments. I think I might have a guess as to what you might say, but I'll start with you. Like as far as I mean the you could talk about everything from the thought process even behind the idea of blading going back throughout history, or however you view it. But like what do you think about it as far as in the usage in the business?
One of those things where it's like it there are definitely times where the heat and the story is there where it helps enhance and make it better. But those times are like extremely rare, come very like the best example I can think of is Bret Hart and Stone Cold at WrestleMania 13.
Mm, mm, yes.
Like when you have
So
like when you're like when the stars align like that, yes. But the amount of times that'll ever happen, few and far between.
right, right. And even then, I don't know if they could have known the full far-reaching implications and ramifications of them doing that. Like I'm quite sure that both Brett and Steve were just thinking of their match at the time. They didn't know it would become an iconic image or an iconic finish. They wouldn't know how. I mean, you always hope that what you do will be remembered, but it's not. You can never guarantee that people will take to it the same, or even if like you're also relying on, and I guess if you're going to rely on anybody, it would be the WWF production to capture that moment. Like you could do the best thing in the world, and if the camera misses it, then it's like, oh, but so yeah, that's a great example. But so then by saying that, what you're really saying though, what I'm hearing from you is that it's overused. I mean, that's
Yes.
what I'm hearing.
Way overused. Yes. Like that's one of those things. It should be like only if it's like the heat's there, the story's there, and it'll take it to the next level.
Yeah. That's interesting because if you think back to before wrestling was national and worldwide, um when people were using it for that reason that you're saying, like we're trying to enhance and draw money, but we're doing that in towns. So you would have guys that would have to bleed in every, in all these situations that only these people would see it, so that they would come back the next time, to see you continue this or to get your revenge, or whatever happens, right? So it's like you got you got to reopen you got to reopen the cut and just keep. That's why these guys have like these guys had foreheads that looked like chewed gum. I don't know if Abdullah the Butcher ever had a match he didn't bleed in, because that's all he could do. He's a gigantic fat guy. All he could do is waddle around and hit people with objects. So, obviously I'm oversimplifying it, but like, so how do I get people interested in the fact that I can't work? Well, I have to bleed, or I'll make somebody else bleed, or that kind of thing. So, guys like him and Bruiser Brody, they have that the chewed gum forehead, or like the guys that even just would have like the crisscross of like, look like a road map on their head.
You could play
Because
checkers on their head.
yeah, because they had to do it so many times. Like, okay, we got to do this for this town to get the return match. Now we got to do it for this town to get the return match. So we're doing the same angle, and only this town is seeing it because we don't have cell phones or TV, or those kind of things. So yeah, you had to do it a lot more back then. And then in the time when you did have worldwide TV, dude, I remember, and you probably remember too. There was a period in like the mid 2000s, like kind of when I was active wrestling, around a little before and a little after, but it's like it seemed like every single SmackDown somebody was just bleeding after like a chair shot, like on the TV show. Like, oh my, like this means nothing anymore. Like and then it was like it went from that to like, all right, no more blood ever. Like it was just like it was abrupt, shut off. Like they turned the faucet off. Probably around the Chris Benoit time, they probably just were like, all right, no more anything. But before that, it was just like people were just. Specifically SmackDown, I remember just like people just bleeding every single week. Like they just, anytime anybody did anything, it was like the Conan O'Brien skit, the James the Gentleman Masher Corcoran or whatever the thing was, where he was like they were. You know the skit I'm talking about?
I do not know. I'm sorry.
So there was a skit where it was like it was like a profile of like an old timey boxer. And it was like they were showing like how he was legendary for doing those. He did the 100 plus round matches and stuff, and they would show how like the matches were just like the two guys like circling each other doing this, and nobody throwing any punches because nobody wanted to get punched. And so it was like that. And then as soon as like and then they said like as soon as black athletes start to compete in boxing, like he just immediately would get hit. And it got to the point where like, after a period of time that he would just get like, he'd go in for a match and the bell would ring and he would just start bleeding like right out of the corner. So Yeah, it was kind of like that. SmackDown was like that. Is my point. Um, but yeah, it was overused then. It's still kind of overused now. It was like if WWE is saying we have a no blood policy, uh, you know, unofficially we have a no blood policy, and AEW is the upstart promotion. They're like, well, shit, we can bleed it whenever we want, and we're gonna do it, even if the angle needs it or not, or even if it makes sense or not. Let's just bleed. Everybody bleeds. We're AEW. We're the best bleed, and then
And then we'll even
WWE.
drink each other's blood too.
Yeah, we'll drink it. It's that good. That's how good our blood is. We will drink each other's blood. I wonder if they picked up any of those like vampire fans. Like if they got any of those. But nonetheless, when WWE's like, I guess we could do a blood sometimes. Now AEW is going to be like, well, shit. Now what do we do? So maybe scale it. Maybe they'll scale it back a little bit more now that blood's back on the table. Um, I don't know. Personally, I think that there's definitely a middle ground between never doing it and always doing it. Sure. you know, it's just like you said, at the right time for the right thing. Yes. But I also think that blood is severely overrated in terms of not only the fact of how they like censor it, like like for example, so they just with the Hell in a Cell match between Drew and Punk, they had blood on they both juiced in that match. And then when you see highlights of the match that they're showing on Raw or SmackDown, they're showing it with the grayscale on. Like they put the black and white up when they're showing the clips when they're bleeding. And I've never understood that. The censoring of it, because it's okay, we see you bleeding in the picture. Like, we know what that is. We don't think anybody spilled a dark liquid on you. We know that you're bleeding. We can see it. So are we censoring the color red or not? Does Raw have to change all their entire set dressing now because it's there's red on TV? That makes no sense to me. You got to grow up. I don't get it, but if that's even if that's a decision that's made to appease outside influences like advertisers or things, then they got to grow up too. It's not, I just don't get that. And that's why, it makes more sense of like, if we have a no blood policy, okay, yeah, because if we do use blood, then it's going to have to be gray, so we can't do it. That's better than if you're just going to do it, though. Everybody knows what it is. Even little kids looking at it know what it is. Adults know what it is. What's the big deal if a guy bleeds from the forehead? I don't understand why that's in society. It's such a thing to see blood, and I guess that's why it's such a, like, they talk about it drawing money. You know what I mean? Like, because there's something primal that supposedly comes over people. They see blood, they're like, oh my God, this is, is it because it's literally our life flowing out? Like, is that it? Is it tied back to like the caveman, the evolution of human? Like, is that just, this is the visual representation of our life and it's flowing out? Like, so we get worked up about it? I'm getting very deep and psychological here, but I'm just wondering, like, to me, if a guy bleeds from the forehead a little bit, I don't get up in arms. I don't start squirming in my seat. I don't. And I also don't think it's that big of a deal. For people, it is weird. It is very barbaric in terms of the way people say to like take a razor blade and cut your forehead on purpose. People are like, you're crazy for doing that. Wrestlers are crazy for doing that. It's really not that big of a deal though. And if you're in a controlled environment like that, where you're like, okay, I'm going to have a tiny, slim razor blade that nobody can see, hopefully, and I'm going to cut my head when hopefully nobody's looking, hopefully. That's safer than, say, well, I'm just going to hard way you with a fucking punch, or and possibly do other damage like concussive damage, trying to punch you in the eyebrow like a Harley Race, or like to actually hardway somebody, like supposedly Drew got hardwayed with the toolbox. Like I don't know. So to me, even though people say it's crazy to blade, I still think it's safer than a lot of things, because all it is just like a little bit of blood. And sometimes you can, hit a gusher, like with Eddie Guerrero and JBL, or many other times. There's times like that, or a couple other times like I've gotten.
Joey Mercury, dude, that was one of the nastiest things I've ever seen live.
Well, that is, yeah. You're talking about the ladder spot?
Yep.
Yeah, well that was totally different, because that was an accident, right? So I'd rather razor blade myself than take a ladder in the face. So I don't know, man. But all that we're just, yeah, blading is safer than working a necro butcher. That's right, Mike. So I don't know, but for whatever reason that people respond to it, I think the fact that WWE hadn't done it so long maybe contributed to the way people felt about the cell match. Maybe it did enhance it a bit. Um, but I think, obviously it's not that like it's not that wise for me to say, but yes, there's a time and place for it. Liz says, my deal with blood is more that sometimes it's totally unnecessary, but it's more just the fact they're a blood-borne illness that I would not want the chance of being exposed to. Well,
Right. Yeah.
there's
You'd
that.
want to. Yeah. You'd want to make sure you like have the proper precautions and safety procedures already set up, and both guys have clean blood.
Yeah, well, everybody's supposed to be, you would hope that everybody knows if they have a blood-borne disease or not, and that they'll be forthcoming about it. I think it's times when people haven't been, which has been the issue.
Ooh, remember the Hell in a Cell between Undertaker and Randy Orton, and Bob Orton bled on Taker, and he had no idea he had hepatitis.
Well, that's exactly what I was thinking of, and that's not even the only time that we've heard about that. So, um, stuff like that, yeah, I mean, you got to be up on these things. So hopefully, you would think that in a company like WWE, they would have, guys would be like, okay, well, especially now too, like when if we're if we're now going to re-implement it or whatever, but now we've got the Endeavor parentage, like all this stuff, then it's like, okay, we need to know who's clean, and we got to get our
You
blood test done every so often.
you have the resources to make sure that, okay, if you're going to do an angle like that, it's with guys who have clean blood, and you have the cleanup procedures ready to go. That way, as soon as the next match gets in the ring, they don't have to worry about anything.
That's right. We got to make sure this blood is safe to drink, guys. Okay. You might be in a match with Swerve, so you got to make sure that your blood is healthy, delicious. Um, make sure to take your aspirin, because he doesn't like it too thick. He wants it. Swerve likes the blood to go down smooth, so you want to accommodate him. It's his house. Uh, you know. So yeah. Any other thoughts on blood from the chat or anybody else? Um,
I
or we
mean, it's
can move
great.
on.
It's a natural part of the human body. I mean, need it.
That's right. Iron helps us play.
Can't sleep. Clown will eat me.
All right. Uh, so, well, if we're ready to move on, um, I guess we can just go to the TNA episode. We got an episode. So they were able to do their tapings here in Nashville at the Skyway Studios. They they're going to start their episode with, well, this some people would say this is even better than blood. It's a ketchup packet. There we go. All right, we're caught up. And we're gonna start with Dark Wendy and Rosemary and Dark Tasha Steeles. Versus, or no, actually with Lish versus Masha Slamovich, Jordan Grace, and Sol Ruka. And we get a nice little mixed 6-women tag team match. Why are they mixed? Because some are from NXT. So, yeah, there you go. It's a six women. Any thoughts?
It was an alright match, but one thing I want to point out is Sol Ruka is one of like a great example of as soon as she comes out, you understand exactly who she is.
Mm-hmm. And who is she?
Surfer chick.
Oh.
I mean, the entire presentation, the look, the music. I mean, she doesn't have to say anything. You already figure out she's a surfer chick.
She rides her opponent like a board. Yeah, so Sol Ruka, she's pretty interesting. I was looking at her in this match, and I was like, okay, they're working on they're working on the eventual day when Charlotte steps away from the ring. Like it's like they've got their replacement, a tall blonde who does flips. You can do that. But anyway, yeah. So anyway, the Juggernaut driver on Tasha and babies go up, and the only thing this match was just like, I don't even know what is still going on as far as the NXT connection of Wendy and Rosemary. It's like this is just here for somebody to take a pin, I guess. I don't, it doesn't seem like they're interested in continuing that any further. Like it's not going any further. This is now going to split off into, as we'll see, it's going to split off into Jordan and Masha here. So I don't know that they didn't really do anything in this match to even sort of tease going into that, did they?
Not really. No, it was really weird where the Jordan and Masha stuff picked up later on the show because we see Jordan, in her wrestling gear in a wrestling match, and then later on in the show, she's like in street clothes, like looking like she just got there.
Right. All right. Well, let's get to that eventually. So we see Josh and I guess who's being called the Northern Armory, Sinner and Saint. The Northern Armory. Okay. With Gia and no music underneath. All I got from this is that these guys are trying to have charisma, and the way they do that is they chew gum and have white t-shirts. That's their charisma. I don't know. Did it work for you?
Oh, I was totally entertained. If I need 2 dudes wearing white t-shirts and chewing gum, I want these 2.
Yep. All right, one of you take your shoes off. Like, what was that about? You got a guy named Speedball Mike Bailey, and you're just gonna be another small Canadian with your shoes off? Okay, yeah, I guess not. Well, also, what kind of a name is the Armory?
Yeah, I know. What the? Oh.
Isn't that a building? Aren't armories a building? Hold on. A place where weapons are kept. An array of resources available for a particular purpose. Okay, so in this sense, Josh is getting deep here. They're getting deep. These are he's the walking weapon, and these are like his backup weapons. Like these are the weapons they're in the armory, I guess. They are the armory.
Like if the gun jams, they're the swords at the side.
I guess. I usually call that like, you Usually call that a sword or a sidearm or whatever your backup is. Usually it's not the building that houses the other weapons that you would have to then. Never mind. Let's move on. Dolph Ziggler. We all love this guy, the TNA champion, making my Moose figure obsolete with his TNA championship, his little tiny TNA champion. By the way, I got an update on that, but maybe I'll save it for another week. So he's in the ring. Joe Hendry comes out. They start talking. Joe Hendry's like, "Hey, what's this JBL?" Dolph's like, "Hey, kayfabe that, brother." And then Coach interrupts. No, not Jonathan Coachman. No, not what's that guy's name? Craig T. Nelson. It's not those guys. It's First Class, but the KC Navarro version. And they say that they're, no matter whether it's Bound for Glory or all the way down to TNA Explosion, they are the perpetual main event. So Santino comes out and he says, "I got an idea. I make a tag a match." So we're gonna get
Playa.
Yes, the Bound for Glory main event versus Coach in our main event for the evening. So that was Mike Martin, do you guys like Joe Hendry? I don't know. Do we like Joe Hendry? Let's answer that. Do we like Joe Hendry? And the chat answer
We
too.
believe.
All right, I'll take that as a yes. But I like Joe Hendry. Yeah, Joe Hendry's all right in a certain usage, but I feel like the more quote unquote over he's gotten, or trying to gotten over himself, I feel like he's less. I don't know how do I feel like, does it, even though he's wrestling for the company's championship, does it kind of feel like he's less than he's ever, like, not less than he's ever been, but not as hot as he was before, even before the NXT stuff. Like, I felt like he was a little bit hotter with TNA than this.
Yeah, he's definitely cooled off a little bit, but I think it's because he hasn't been featured on NXT like in the last few weeks, whereas he was kind of a bit of a main player there for a little bit.
Well, dude, he's barely been featured on TNA too. Like, he's there, but not. He doesn't. There's a difference between being on the show and feeling like you're featured.
They're not doing anything creatively with him. He's basically just there to kind of maintain the current angles and storylines that are going on, instead of doing new stuff and coming up with different and creative things.
Well. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, let's see what happens if they actually end up going with him at Bound for Glory, and then we'll see what they do after that. But I don't have any faith in it. I don't have any faith in it. The TNA sucks. All right. Anyways, makeover. It's makeover time. We remember we were going to do a makeover for Heather Reckless, and this has music. Just in case you couldn't just sit here and watch these two people talk, because Heather doesn't say nothing. They actually got a Botox chant.
Botox, Botox, Botox. Which I think had to have been kind of a self-rid. Like, it kind of
must have. There's no other explanation for it. So we do this. We don't end up getting to see the results of it, not here and not on this show. So I guess there's going to be a grand unveiling. I'm going to assume it'll be the next episode. That was probably this set of tapings. We'll get to see the new Heather Reckless.
Or what if they do it at Bound for Glory?
Is it worthy of a reveal at Bound for Glory to take this terrible, terrible women's wrestler and show her with new clothes?
Not really, but it'd be in TNA's wheelhouse to do that, though.
A bad decision? Got it.
Yes.
All right. Josh sends the armory back before his match with Eric Young, because this match is happening, and of course they come back and cost Eric, and then they beat him down, and then I'm sure the first thing on everybody's mind went right to Burt Macklin. They're like, "Where is Burt? Why isn't he helping his best friend? Why isn't the tag him and bag him babyface out here to save Doctor Doom?" And we go back and we can see that a camera is backstage conveniently, and they see him napping, with using a pallet for a pillow. I guess he's not okay, and no one else wants to help either. Nobody else respects or cares about Eric Young, so they just Pillmanize his leg, and they cripple Eric Young. So the beloved Eric Young is crippled now because of these three Canadian people.
At least they explained why Macklin didn't show up. I mean, that's more than we get from a lot of places these days. At least they went out of the way to explain why he wasn't there to help his friend.
Yeah, just the one friend. He's got. There's nobody else. Remember, match, think about how many times Santino came out on stage during this show.
Plus, this would have been a good spot for maybe like a Cody Deaner to run in. Maybe, I don't know.
Well, the people didn't want it apparently, so he didn't do it. Yeah, it's. All right, so Gia finds Jordan looking for Masha. This is that thing you were talking about where she looked like she just arrived at the building. She's back in her clothes. And then she's like trying every locked door in the building, like, okay, is that what we do? I don't know. I mean, maybe you could text her or something. I don't know, or I know you follow each other on like X. Maybe you could send her a post or a DM. But anyway, yeah, she does open one door, and this door that she opens, the camera's already inside, so that was lucky. It was lucky that the camera was inside and the music was playing, and that the lights were red, and we see the kill wall, the return to the kill wall, the entire Knockouts division crossed out. They're 8x10s. All those 8x10s you can get in the lobby before the show for your autograph, meet and greets. She's got one of them each. She crossed them all out. Is this the old Masha Slamovich?
Turn me back to the old me.
Yeah, forgot about Masha. All right, well, we're going to find out. Or is she being framed for something? Mike Santana's in the ring. He calls out Moose, and he gets Moose, and Moose has his own security. Now, I understand why these guys wouldn't help Eric Young, because...
Well, they work for Moose.
You're right, yeah.
This is personal security.
He probably specifically told him, no, don't go out there. Let him die. And that's fine. Santana starts a... Well, they're arguing over who's really gangsta, and Santana says he's nothing but a baby boy bitch, and I assume he's referring to the John Singleton movie, but that gets chanted. The crowd likes to chant that. Moose says he learned one thing in wrestling, and that's if you're good at something, you never do it for free. Keep that lesson in mind, even though Moose is cutting a heel promo, but everybody listening, always keep that in mind. That's a good life lesson, even from a heel. System attacks. This is the Fat Boys. They attack from behind while Santana's attention is on, Moose and the security. And for once, Santana doesn't just make his own comeback. Not saying that he always makes his own comeback and dispels any heat. Just saying, like, a lot of times you'll see some wrestler get jumped and then they'll just fight everybody off.
Yeah, like what was the point of the jump then?
Right. So instead they have ABC run out, and then the Hardys run out. So now we're like way lopsided. Security was on a 7-second delay, apparently, just like the. Not that this is a live broadcast, but I was just counting the amount of seconds that it took for them after ABC ran right past them. Like they were facing the ring, and ABC came from the back, and ABC just ran between the security guards and got in the ring, and they just stared at him with their hands in front of them, and then so they just watched it. And then the Hardys came out and ran down, do the same thing. And then security was like, oh, wait a minute. Now we should go in and get these guys. So they went in and took bumps. And then Santino comes out and makes Moose versus Santana official at Bound for Glory. And then he's going to say, you guys want to see ABC versus the Hard Boys right now? So
Ooh, I have a clue. Ooh, I'm getting a clue too.
A raging clue.
Ooh, let's follow your clue.
Yeah. Well, anyway, they have the match. And then as they're having the match, the system runs in on a double down. No, not the KFC sandwich. They both, all four men were down. And then Santino comes out and makes this like, now we're going to have these three teams in a fatal three-way at Bound for Glory. And it's also a Full Metal Mayhem match, because why not?
Why not, pal?
Yeah, why not?
Well, I'm hoping the Hardys don't do anything ridiculous and stupid, but we know they are. Well, Jeff, at least.
Yeah, they'll do at least one stupid thing.
Probably one of those things where it's like, we're working less. We can go all out on this night and then recover for several weeks.
Mm-hmm. So, speaking of a three-way.
Ooh.
It's just another match. It's Laredo Kid versus Leon Slater versus Jason Hotch for the number one contendership to Mike Bailey's X Division Championship. Mike Bailey's on commentary today, so he'll be calling the action.
And it's not for Bound for Glory; it's for next week's Impact.
That's right. So, the match is what it is. Do you have any special notes on it or anything?
Not really, other than I thought the right guy went over, kind of, help move Leon a little bit up the card. He needs it.
He hits that Swanton 450. I mean, that's a reason to watch. If you, I don't know how it doesn't look like it should be physically possible, but he does it. It's just a swanton. If you've never seen it, it's like it goes to be a swanton, like he's going to dive, and then when he makes his rotation, he just makes an extra rotation and splashes. It's like, what? How did you? Huh? But he does it,
dude. Some of this athleticism is just insane.
Yep, it's definitely insane. So he's going to face Speedball next week, like you said. Here's a question, though. I mean, not a question, more of a musing. Laredo Kid, right? Like, Laredo Kid is in AAA. Laredo Kid is like a main eventer. Like, he is, if not, he hasn't already done it. He's competing for their mega championship. And I understand you wanting to, like, okay, you do a talent exchange, you feature talent from another company. And I understand if you don't have people from another company figured into your plans, but if I'm TNA and I have anybody that's a main eventer for wherever I'm getting them from, I'm at least going to give them a little showcase carved out on the side of my show to make them look like a main eventer. I'm not going to just be like, well, it don't really matter what's going on in AAA, because this isn't the 80s where you don't know what's going on in other countries. Now you can know. You might be a AAA fan and you might be watching Impact just because Laredo Kid's here, and you're just gonna see him on there and you're gonna be like, what the fuck is this? It just exposes, I know everybody knows wrestling's phony, but there has to be, in my opinion, some sort of like synchronicity between companies of like, okay, well, even if we're not going to use this guy, I'm not saying Impact needs to, or TNA needs to make Laredo Kid the main event because he's the main event of his company. What I'm saying is, if you're going to bring Laredo Kid in, and he wasn't pinned here, so like they had Jason Hotch for that, but they've already beaten Laredo Kid multiple times. Like, he has been the Jason Hotch guy multiple times, and he's there to showcase a guy. It's for him to get reps and experience and a payday, and it's also for TNA to have outside talent, and a working relationship with another company besides NXT and everything like that. So how about just a spot where Laredo Kid gets, a match, like a squash match, or a match against a guy that you're not going to do anything with, that's a lower card heel or something like that. Just something for Laredo Kid to do that's not just like, this would be fine on its own, but they've treated him a certain way. So I was just thinking about that.
And here's something else I just thought of. How many masked lucha guys does TNA have on their roster?
Not many.
Like, why is he not fill that spot? Why not have him be a featured player and fill that role?
Well, they did the same thing with Taurus. Like, they would just use him in Decay, but like, Decay wasn't doing anything either. He would just lose all the time. So I just feel like you should take the temperature of what the talent is doing in their own company, and then be like, okay, how can we make this a positive for our TV show, so that everybody wins? Like, that's what we want. We want it based on Laredo Kid's track record in TNA. Would anybody be interested to go check out AAA?
No, not at all. Like, oh, these are the AAA guys. This is how they fare. Like, they keep getting beat. No, never mind. I'm good.
Yeah, I don't know. That's just what I think. Jordan Grace. So commentary's doing an on camera, whatever they're talking about, bullshitting, and then Jordan Grace comes and she's like, "I'm sorry." It's like, she interrupts this. She goes in the ring. She calls out Masha Slamovich. Masha Slamovich comes out. She asks Masha about the kill wall, and long story short, Jordan gets the envelope, the dreaded envelope. You remember that from when she was doing that gimmick? She pulls out the picture. Sure enough, it's a picture of Jordan with an X on it. She's like, really? So, so yeah.
I'll give Jordan credit. She at least reacted and sold it correctly. Like, really, we're going back to this?
Well, so yeah. So what'd you think, man? I mean, this is sort of the first Masha Slamovich English promo we're getting, right? Like, in this sort of environment.
If we're getting Killer Masha back in a different form, this is kind of like a way to say, like, hey, this is who's back, and we go forward from here. I can kind of see going to the past to move to the future, that sort of thing, if that's what they do. But we'll see it Bound for Glory.
Somehow, I don't think she's beating Jordan Grace, but that's just me. She needs to get the fuck out of here and go to WWE.
Just go to NXT already.
Please get out of here. They don't care about you. All All right, now we get our main event. It's AJ and KC versus DZ and JH. Um, you know, so it's a match. Does anything stand out to you?
Man, not really at all. There wasn't really no like they were trying to look like there was tension between the two going into this, but it's like just not quite there.
Also, Dolph gets the win, and
Oh yeah, and
he
you
gives
forgot they hit each other's finishers during the match too. I forgot about that.
yeah he gives Joe Hendry a thumbs up when he after he wins the match. Okay, why not Joe Hendry get a win since you guys are winning anyway? The whole idea is he's the challenger. You know, it's the subtle psychological thing of challenger gets a win, but you know. And I saw, like I didn't even think about it in terms of hitting each other's finishers because I saw Dolph hit what I thought was the what is that? What does AJ call his choke slam? Down payment.
Yeah, down payment.
Yeah, I thought Dolph choke slam Casey Navarro. I thought he was doing a down payment. Was he doing a standing ovation? I don't.
Yeah, that I believe that was a standing ovation because earlier in the match, Hendry hit the danger zone on one of the first class guys. I forgot who.
Oh, well, to me it was clearly a choke slam. So does Dolph not know what the move is, or was he actually taking a shot at AJ Francis? I would have to look at it again. Perhaps I was wrong. Perhaps somebody else can correct me. But or he might have hit a standing ovation at a different point and I wasn't paying attention. Maybe that. But I definitely saw a choke slam in there somewhere, I thought. But regardless, I still would have just said, well, let's have Joe Hendry win this one. But they thought differently. And that's the episode. No tension afterwards. Just a thumbs up from Dolph. Good job. Good job at me winning the match.
And trust me, I fixed that up a little bit on the punching up.
Do you hit him with a hammer?
No.
Oh, okay.
But I felt we did something pretty decent with this.
Oh, okay. Well, then we should get right into that. We should just get right to it because I'm tired of waiting. I thought this ending was flat and lame, and I want a better one. So let's punch this with a hammer.
I can't say it was a great ending, but I can say it was better than what we got.
Was it a big ending?
It at least did something.
All right. Let's go to something.
All right. So we go to our recap and catch-up packet. Intro, Pyro, and Ballyhoo go to the announce table, run down the card for tonight. Announcers give their thoughts on recent events. In-ring, Nick Nemeth and Joe Hendry. Nick Nemeth, music and entrance. Nemeth begins cutting his promo. Joe Hendry, music and entrance. Same promo is on the show with the mention of JBL. First class music and entrance. Same promo is on the show. Santino, music and entrance. Same promo is on the show, booking the main event of Nemeth and Hendry versus First Class. Go to the parking lot. We see JBL gets out of his car. Gia approaches and asks what he's doing tonight. He says everyone will have to find out. Go to our first commercial break. Backstage, Joe Hendry and Gia. Gia approaches Hendry and informs him that JBL is in the building, and he says he's going to look for him. Match number 1, Wendy Chu, Rosemary, Tasha Steeles versus Sol Ruka, Jordan Grace, Masa Slamovich. Wendy Chu and Rosemary, music and entrance. Tasha Steeles, music and entrance. Sol Ruka, music and entrance. Masha Slamovich, music and entrance. Jordan Grace, music and entrance. Condensed version of match on the show. Backstage, Gia with Josh Alexander and Sinner and Saint. Same promos on the show. Backstage, JBL. He is walking before he comes across Nick Nemeth's locker room and enters it. Commercial break in number 2. We come back to Nick Nemeth's locker room. He enters it and finds a note from JBL and he reads it. Match number 2, Josh Alexander versus Eric Young. Josh Alexander, music and entrance with Icarus and Williams. Eric Young, music and entrance, condensed version of match on the show. Cut to a shot of Macklin laid out backstage. Vignette, Ash Bael against concierge Heather Reckless, same as on the show. Backstage, Jordan Grace and Gia Miller, same as on the show. Match number 3, X Division number 1 contenders match. Laredo Kid versus Jason Hotch versus Leon Slater. Laredo Kid, music and entrance. Jason Hotch, music and entrance with John Schuyler. Quick promo, Leon Slater, music and entrance, condensed version of match on the show. Backstage, Joe Hendry, he's still looking for JBL. Someone informs Hendry that JBL was spotted in a specific location in the building. Commercial break number 3, we come back. In-ring, Mike Santana and Moose. Mike Santana, music and entrance through the crowd. Same promo as on the show. Moose out with personal security. Same promo exchange as on the show. Myers, Edwards, ABC, Hardy's out to fight. Santino, music and entrance. He books Hart, ABC versus Hardy's after the commercial break. But we don't go to the commercial break. We go to Gorilla. Santino walks through the curtain. He's confronted by Crazy Steve. Steve is angry that Santino cancels his promo for that tag match. Santino promises him time next week. Steve says he doesn't get his time next week, then he'll make time for himself.
I think Crazy Steve is you're keeping him alive on the show, but I think he is the exchange part of the talent exchange with Laredo Kid, because Havoc, I think him and Havoc have been working down there.
I did not. Okay, I was not aware of that.
Yeah.
Okay, then. Then we go to our fourth commercial break. Come back with match number 4, ABC versus Hardy's. Match is joined in progress. Condensed version of match on the show. And then with all the interference, Santino, music and entrance, books the 3-way tag team Full Metal Mayhem match for Bound for Glory. Then we go to a vignette of Rosemary and Wendy Chu. Talk about their recent setbacks and defeats, and they hint at adding a third member to the group. In-ring, Jordan Grace, Masha Slamovich. Cut to announcers about to run down next week card. When Jordan comes out and interrupts, Jordan cuts same promos on the show. Masha Slamovich, music and entrance, same promos on the show. We go backstage. Joe Hendry is still looking for JBL, and he spots JBL in the distance talking with Nick Nemeth before we go to our fifth and final commercial break. New Japan hype video, go to the announce table, run down current Bound for Glory card and next week's card. And of course, our main event, First Class versus Nick Nemeth and Joe Hendry. And this is where it gets changed up. Let me move this out of the way so I get the whole screen. All right, First Class music and entrance, Nick Nemeth music and entrance, Joe Hendry music and entrance, extended version of the match on the show. Build friction and tension between Hardy and Nemeth. Finish happens after a ref bump and JBL gets in the ring. JBL attempts to clothesline from hell on Francis, but he ducks, and Hendry gets nailed instead. JBL sees Nemeth being attacked by Navarro and goes to help him. Francis hits the down payment on Hendry. First Class goes over. Post-match, Hendry and Nemeth argue with Hendry argues with JBL and Nemeth over what just happened, and he leaves to the ring and heads to the back.
Wow, he's in a condition to argue after a clothesline from hell? I guess JBL is getting old.
So yeah, there we go.
All right, that's better than what happened here. Oh, well, there it was. It was what it was. And what it was it.
And we got it.
All right. Well, then that is going to be it for us, I think. No, I can tell you guys, I teased it earlier, but so I got an update. I'm sitting around, minding my own business, and I get an email. Let me see if I can pull up the email. So I want to get this. Maybe. Do I still have it? No. Well, this is the hook for you guys. Through a bizarre series of events, I ended up ordering a Stan Hansen action figure. So so here's how this happened. I'm sitting around minding my own business. I look at my email inbox. There's an email from Powertown Wrestling. Okay, this email is telling me that that the Moose figure. Well, it's not telling me anything about the Moose figure specifically. They're saying they're basically writing an email, like not only apologizing, but like, but they I'm sure this was like a mass email. Obviously, they didn't just send it to me, but they're apologizing and making like and putting themselves over at the same time, because that they're saying that due to the high demand that's even more than they imagined, that they won't be able to send out the TNA series figures on time or the Ultra series figures on time. Uh, so the shipping is going to be delayed. Does it come with chew and bifocals? That's a good question. I'll get to that. Um, so basically, they're saying in this email that because of these delays, because they're just so they can't believe how amazing that all the pre-orders have been and everything, and it's ruined their lives, and they had to delay everything. Even though they already put a limit on the amount of figures that they were going to make, so I kind of felt like they should have known. But they keep exceeding their own expectations apparently. So there's going to be a delay with the TNA series figures, and to make good on their delay, they're showing you we're serious about this. And if you remember the last Moose figure, the one that was coming out from TNA, remember that got canceled, right? Remember that? So like, just to make sure that everybody's not worried, that yes, you will get these figures, that they are real and they are happening and everything. We're putting our money where our mouth is, and you will get a free figure of your choice if you ordered any one figure from the series 2 or the TNA series. And if you ordered like a whole bundle set, you would get 2 free figures from the series 1. So I'm going and I'm looking at the series 1, right? And I'm like, okay. And it's like, I don't remember them all. It was like well, there was Stan Hansen, of course. There was Kerry Von Erich, there was Magnum TA, there was Luthez, Vern Gagne, maybe one other person I'm forgetting. But yeah. So all these figures are like, these figures are ridiculous. And when I say that, I mean they're definitely for adults. I can see like kids, because it comes with all these accessories and attention to detail things that kids wouldn't give a shit about. So it's like, wow, these things are really, crazy. So I'm looking at them. I'm like, well, I mean, I guess I don't really care. I don't have a personal connection to any of these, but free is free, so I'm gonna take one. And I look at it and I'm like, well, I guess of these, perhaps Luthez would be a good figure to have. It's a cool figure of Luthez, I guess. So I was like, all right. So I go to the thing, and it's like I go to their page, and like looking in the series, yeah, nothing like the 88 LJNs. So I go to the page. They got the whole series 1 set right there. The only one sold out is Luthez. So I'm like, fuck. I guess everybody else had the same thought. Like, well, I don't want any of these but Luthez. So then I was just like, well, okay.
Well, it is Luthez.
It is Luthez, So I was like, well, so what am I supposed to do now? Am I supposed to get Vern Gagne, which is a bootleg Luthez? Like, no, I don't want to do that. Don't really care about anybody else, but I was looking at Stan Hansen, and I was just like, Stan Hansen had that line in No Holds Barred where he said, "Boys, it ain't even worth it." And I thought, I do use that line in everyday life from time to time, so I guess Stan Hansen would be an appropriate figure for me to order. So I get a
I'm
free Stan Hansen.
That's the first I've heard of him being in No Holds Barred. I never saw that movie.
Oh, come on. So, you know what? Well, you know what you're doing when you get off of here. No holds
HMG After
barred.
Dark tomorrow night, pal.
That's it. Yeah, you
No
need
Holds
more watch
Barred.
alongs? No holds barred is a perfect choice. Yeah, he makes a cameo in it. There's cameos in the movie. And I won't spoil for you what he's talking about when he says it ain't even worth it. Um I'll let you see that for yourself. But yeah, boo this man. Um so yeah. So I got a Stan Hansen figure on the way. Don't know when it'll get here, but according to their email, the way they made it sound, it's going to be long before the Moose figure gets here. So we'll have to wait on that Moose unboxing. Maybe by the time it gets here, um, he'll be the TNA champion again, and the figure won't be outdated. But we can only hope. But that's the update. That's the update on the Moose. It's going to be delayed. The Moose is delayed in transit, so we're gonna have to settle for a Stan Hansen. We could do the Stan Hansen. I don't know if I want to unbox it though. I mean, I'll unbox him from the shipping box. How about that? We'll compromise. I'm not gonna take him out of the package. But yeah, so that's what's up with that. But Brandon, what's up with you? What do you got going on outside of this show?
Let's see what we got going on. As always, you can find me on Twitter, or as the kids call it these days, the X at LG Brandon Whoop. Twitch is still kind of under construction at the moment, but the address is twitch.tv/LG Brandon Whoop Whoop. In fact, that's where I'm going to be start working on something tonight. Hopefully, I want to get back up and running sometime this week, but I'm not sure what it is that needs to be do with that. There's a lot of stream technical issues. I'm sure you can completely understand. Like, you can have your thing set up great, and then as soon as you log back in, everything's changed and messed up. It's like, fuck.
Yeah, it can't just be how you left it sometimes. Just ask Jimmy T.
And of course, once I finally get up off my ass and upload all the backlogs of the punching up impacts, I am also on Substack at HMG Brandon. See what our schedule for this week. We got tomorrow night HMG After Dark, and as we decided on here tonight, we're doing No Holds Barred, pal.
Yeah.
What's that smell? Dookie.
Yep, that's right. The famous. You can see Zeus in all his glory. It's gonna be
May
great.
you rest in peace.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's my bike, punk.
That's right. All right. Well, you can find my bike at Opinion Haver on all social media platforms. Anything you care to see from me outside of these shows, that's if you type that into Google, you'll find several things, I guess, and you'll know it's me. You can catch me on the Next Level Wrestling Review every Wednesday at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern with Big Ray Hernandez. You can catch me every Sunday morning for The Wreckage at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern with Jimmy T. You can catch me. I'll tell you where you cannot catch me. You cannot catch me on the Wrestling with Rogers because they are not doing an episode this week. I think they're off this week. However, it's even harder to they've moved to a new concrete time that just doesn't work for me, brother. So I've had to catch the Wrestling with Rogers on the replay. I haven't been able to catch them live in a while. So then you got of course Stevie Richards' show. This week he broke down the difference between a cage match in AEW with Swerve and Hangman versus a cage match with Punk and Drew. The differences. So it's a really interesting breakdown of how you just had two very recent things done very differently in two very different companies. So check him out for that. Check out JTG's YouTube channel. Man, I don't even see any content from JTG's channel. Should I even promote it anymore? I'll promote it. I'll promote it. He's my buddy. I can promote it. But hopefully you get some content going. But hey, it's free to just click a button and subscribe. It's not like, even if he doesn't ever put up a video again, at least, it doesn't cost you nothing. Um, and of course, check out everything else HMG is doing, from Brandon's watch alongs to the bottom line sports betting, the Monday locker rooms, everything. I Like It Raw every Tuesday morning. Um, check us out, get us to that 1,000, share it with a friend or foe, as K Dog says. And that should just about wrap it up. So for Brandon, I'm the vet, and I don't have a sign off line.